Hey guys, Mike with Gettin Greasy Garage. A couple of things. One, I'm trying out a new camera, so be patient. Anyway, this is the alternator off of Dad's 80s 5 Corvette. That, if you go, there's a playlist on that, lowering videos and such. Anyway, alternator went out. It was getting hot, and it was overcharging. It also had a current draw that was running the battery dead. So, with what I know about alternators, now mind you, I'm no expert. Probably the diodes that are bad. Anyway, due to the current state of parts and availability and everything else, we elected to rebuild this one. And that way we still got our case and everything fits right and so on and so forth. So right here I'll show the kit that I used. So in that kit that we bought that on eBay, and that particular company was great to deal with. I emailed back and forth with them making sure that the kit fit this alternator, this amperage. It's a 108 amp alternator. In 86, GM started using 120 amp, so not real common. Anyway, or at least to my knowledge, I may be wrong. But anyway, the company was great about emailing me back and forth and confirming that this was the kit that I needed. We ordered it. It showed up in 3 or 4 days, which we're not in a major city, so that's pretty good. I do notice now that they're out of stock on them, but they'll probably have more if they sell them. They probably restock. But I'm very impressed with the quality of everything. The bearings look good. I don't know where this stuff is made, because I just feel like anymore we all know where it's made. It's not here. So, you know, the small parts all look good. And I don't know the exact names for all this stuff, but I was really amazed. You know, it came with new stud and stuff like that, all new screws and hardware. But everything looks good. So, we're going to get into it. This is kind of a how-to, kind of just how I do it also. I have a 1/4-inch ratchet and extension, and just a metric socket set. You will need one big socket. This is a 1-inch to get the nut off. I already went ahead and rattled that loose in advance. Multimeter, just a standard multimeter for testing. So first off, we'll take the nut off, pulley off. I like to keep this stuff in order. Fan, and there's a spacer. Don't forget the spacer. Comes off. We'll go ahead and clean all this stuff up and paint it so it looks fresh and looks new. So once that's off, we'll flip it over. We'll pull our hardware off here. Get that out of the way. And then there's 4 screws on the case that come out. So I'll go ahead and get those out. The other thing you want to do, mark your case halves so that you know how it goes back together, because we're going to have this thing all the way apart. So I'll go ahead and get these case screws out and bring you guys back. Alright guys, so we got all the case screws out, and you can see your black band in here. That's the windings, and you want to make sure on these that it stays with the rear half of the case as it attaches inside here. There's some wires, and if it comes off with the front half, it breaks the wires and you got a mess. So front part slides out. And here's your armature, part that spins. We're going to test this for shorts here in a minute. Well, we'll set that out off to the side for now. Down inside, obviously, you got all your brushes and your parts and everything. So down in there, you got three nuts to remove. The piece looks just like this. You got to take the 3 nuts off to get the wires loose from the windings. They're going to be, let's see, probably 10 millimeter in this. Nope. This is an 85 alternator, so the sizes could be off a little bit. So 9 are standard. I'm just using what I have. Again, this is no professional rebuild. So I'm going to take those nuts off and then we'll pull this out. Alright guys, so I got the nuts off. As you can see in there, kinda. Yeah, gonna pry this up, but it comes out. There's your winding. I just inspect for broken wires and debris. We'll come back and inspect all this piece by piece and clean everything. But I don't see any obvious malfunctions right out of the gate. So we'll set this off to the side too. And there's all the inner workings of an alternator. So we'll go ahead, and all of this has to come out. Alright guys, so I had a little interruption there, but anyway, we're going to go ahead and take these brush holder, diodes, all this stuff out. And we'll get everything cleaned up. So I don't know the exact name on a lot of these components. I just know what fails and how to take it out and how to put it back in. So like I said, this ain't a very good how-to video, but it is what it is. So I'll get all this stuff took out, and then we'll have a look at it and move forward. Alright guys, well, got everything apart, got it out of there, and the kit came with new bearings, but this thing was not really making any noise, so I'm not going to change the bearings. I'm just going to put a little bit of looby-dooby on them. Just a little bit of grease down on the bottom there. I already blew this out good. I was going to paint it, but I'm not going to bother. So that's pretty much that half of it for now. So all of these other components, I've got them sitting here with the screws in them, so I know where everything goes. Nothing looks burnt. It's most likely in the diode assembly. And yeah, it looks kind of burnt right here in the end. So anyway, let me get set up here and I'll show you guys how to test the armature. This is where the factory service manual comes in handy for what you're measuring. Alright guys, so I got my service manual here, and it shows each of the test procedures for each of the parts. I'm going to show some of this, and some of this I won't. But if you want to know how to do this stuff, best to get a factory service manual, and they show all these different procedures, how to test all the armature and the windings and, you know, the diodes and all of it. Really thorough. Um, you can pretty much do it with just a single multimeter, but yeah, you can actually test quite a bit. So anyway, I'll show you guys a few things here and then we'll move on. Alright guys, so I'll see if I can get you a little better situated to see what's going on. I don't know if you can see the screen. So you have 3 wires on your coil, and I just set it on ohms, and you're just checking for opens, meaning there's no circuit between the 3 wires. Middle one and each outer one, and we're good. And then we're going to check to the outer coil, the outer metal, for shorts or for ground. If it grounds, then there's shorts. We're not getting nothing, so we know that's good. Our winding test's okay, so we'll put it here out of the way. Now for our armature, right here you got 2 rings, copper rings that your brushes ride on, and you just want to test to the shaft or the metal part of the armature. And same thing, just leave it on the ohm setting. Ground, you can use either one, but ground to it. Not shorted. Not shorted. Whereas, see, if you touch the same thing, you can tell it creates a circuit. So that test's okay. So we know our windings and our armature in this were not the problem. So next thing we can move on to is where'd they go? We can test our diodes, and I'll get the specification out of the manual for that. Okay guys, well, this is our diode, called a diode trio. Okay, it's got 3 connections on one end and 1 on the other. So we're still set on ohms. And it says test one way and then reverse leads and test the other, from the single connection to each of the other 3. We got 680 on one, 647, 634. Now it says reverse leads. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Now it does say if you don't get a range reading when you reverse the leads, that this is bad. So it says replace this. So like I thought, just from experience, the diode is bad in this. So I'll get it set up and we'll test the next section. Okay, so we got a rectifier bridge here, and we test between the heatsink and each of these terminals. I'll put a ground on our heatsink. Okay. Now we're getting a reading one way, and we're getting a reading, oh, let's see, 134, 135, 4, 36. Okay, so we'll reverse our leads again. Okay, so basically on this, you test it from the heatsink to the metal tabs, and if you get a reading both ways, then it's bad. This tested okay. So we'll save that. We always save parts, because I might need to use that in another alternator later on down the road. So pretty much we know now that the diode's bad, and that's how you test for it. So the bearings, like I said, are good in this. There's no movement here. Bearing feels good. I'm not going to bother pressing that out and changing this bearing. So I'm going to go ahead and start reassembling this, and I'll bring you guys along for that ride. Alright guys, so got that all put back together. As you can see, all new components. I got the little pin in holding the brushes. So when we slip it back together, after I put the windings on, then the pin gets pulled out from the back side right there. Got the new stud in, everything's new. So I'll go ahead and get the windings mounted back in after I blow them off with compressed air, and then we'll slip this thing back together and put it on the car and run it and see what happens. I do want to make a comment about the screws that came with this kit. They did not work with the threads in this case, and I didn't have a problem reusing all the old hardware. So, you know, that's not a bad thing. Still pretty happy with how the kit came together and worked and everything. So I will go ahead and get our windings cleaned up and get them back in here. Alright, so got our windings on, got them bolted back to the rectifier bridge. We're complete there. So we'll set this up. We'll grab our other case half. I'll wipe off these brush, where the brushes go is good. And we'll find our mark here that I made. It's right there, right there. So I can slip this together. Rotate it. Squeeze it together, and then we're back to our 4 original screws we took out. Get those put back in. You know, this is kind of neat for me because I was a little kid when Dad showed me how to do this stuff, because it used to be common and cheaper to do this. I'm sure there's some of you guys out there that have done this stuff over the years. You know, taking apart your alternator and rebuilt it on the bench at home. You know, not everything has been this consumerism society that we've had for, well, at least the last 30 years that I know of. And I'm only I'm on the wrong side of 45. So I remember Dad showing me at like 5 years old, 6 years old, how to do starters and alternators, how to rebuild them, or how to, you know, being on an extreme budget, growing up that way, you'd take 2 or 3 and you'd gut them for parts to make one good one so Dad could get to work. You know, leave it in the comments if you've had those kind of experiences. I always appreciate hearing about them, and I think it's we're coming into a world where it's going to be more and more common that people have to do things like this so that they can get to work, so that they have a vehicle to drive. I think parts availability, and we all know quality's horrible. And I think the availability bug is going to come back around and really bite us. You know, that's the problem with everything being produced overseas. by a country that considered us the enemy, is that when they stop sending us the car parts and supplies and stuff that we depend on in our daily lives, what do? Nobody knows how to do this stuff anymore. I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate that I learned, and you know, that I'm a mechanic, and you know, I'm lucky that I get to live my dream and do this stuff every day. But what happens to the young guys my son's age, he's 19, that their parents never knew how to do this stuff? They're my age, most of the parents. I'm 46. That they never learned how to do this. Mom and Dad took their car to the dealership or to the repair shop, and you know, they never learned how to do this. All right, we'll give her a spin here. Everything's good. We pulled our brush pin out of the back, so we're good there. We got spin, so we'll go ahead and put our little blower pan back on, and our spacer, and our pulley, and our lock washer, and our nut, and we'll tighten her down. And that's how I do these. Again, I'm no expert. I just have basic tools. I did end up getting out the standard size rail of 1/4" 5 sockets, because the internals were all standard. But yeah, that's it, guys. At the end of this video, I'm going to show pictures of the test procedures that I used, and they are specific to the Delco series alternators, 10, 12, 17, and there's a couple other ones, so maybe that'll help somebody out. And you know, this whole kit was $30, $35 with shipping, something like that, free shipping. Or no, this one we had to pay shipping for, but it was under 40 bucks. This alternator at one of the parts stores nearby was a remanufactured, and they wanted $144. $144 for some paint, and they would have put one of these in and probably done nothing else, and it would have failed within 30 days, and we'd be doing this again. So yeah, I don't need to rant anymore about that, but you know, put your experiences with rebuilding this stuff in the comments. You know, let's have a discussion about it. And if you're doing stuff like this, starters, alternators, basic repairs, lawnmowers, find a kid, a relative, somebody, and teach them. Because I think that we're going to come into a time in our very near future that people are going to need to know how to do basic repairs with basic tools, vice grips and needle nose and screwdrivers and a small set of sockets, and you know. So anyway, guys, enough out of me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this new camera thing works out. I went GoPro finally, and tell me how the audio is and all that. Let me know. And yeah, like, comment, share, thumbs up, do all that good stuff. It's free, doesn't cost you a thing, helps out the channel. We're up to 379 subscribers now, so we're slowly growing. Channel grows, more things are able to happen. Maybe I'll get around to building a rat rod like I've been asked to do by several people. And we're still working on Black Betty, and there's always something around here to do. This is what I get to do every day. So anyway, guys, stay sober, stay greasy. See you in the next one.